Good morning, divine beings. Here we are for Tuesday morning for a TMT, Tuesday morning transformation. So here's really the question. What role are you playing in life? How many roles do you play in your life on a daily basis? So how many metaphorical hats do you wear? You wear the parent hat. You wear the job title hat. You wear the chauffeur hat. You're running your kids all around. We wear the spouse hat. We wear the friend hat, the aunt, the uncle, the cousin, the extended family hat, and we have our task list hat that we're wearing. That's a lot of hats. And life can become chaotic, and we get caught up in what we're doing, and we forget who we really are. In other words, we become our roles. We become the hat we're wearing at that time. So many times, in order to manage this chaos, what do? We find that role that we're most successful at because we want to be great. We want to be successful in every area of our life. So we find that hat, like this hat is comfortable. This hat is where I'm successful. And then we apply that hat to all the areas of our lives. And I run into this, not only have I done this, and that can become a problem, I run into this all the time on coaching calls. And so we become what we're doing. We become that successful hat, and then we apply it to other areas of life. So what's an example? One thing is I coach chiropractors. So number one, they're healers. Number two, they're business owners. They have a staff. They have to manage their team. They tell people what to do. We direct patients. And then what do? You come home, and if you're still wearing that hat, what do? Hey, Bobby Joe, we tell people what to do. We make our recommendations, right? But what's the problem? Kids want to come home and they want their daddy. You come home to your wife, she doesn't want Dr. Bill or Dr. Jim. What does she want? She wants the man she fell in love with, that was compassionate, that was empathetic, that comforted her and gave her a break and took the kids and all that stuff. And you walk in and you still have your doctorate title on. That doesn't work very well. So what else happens? Now, women are out in the work, they have goals, they're in business, and you have to be in a masculine world, and you have these masculine traits if you're a leader. And then what do? You come home and you apply that. Well, guess what? Your husband doesn't want a masculine woman, and you're craving to be feminine. And so we wear that hat. We become successful. We become controlling. We tell people what to do, and we start to bleed, in a sense, that one successful hat into all these areas. And parents do this all the time. They get married, they're connected, they fall in love, they're romantic, they take time for each other, they have kids, they become a parent, and all of a sudden their parent hat supersedes their spouse, partner, loving relationship hat. Next thing you know, there's a separation, they don't know how to connect, and this doesn't happen all the time, but it happens a lot. And then next thing down the road, there's a divorce. Why? Because we're applying that hat to every area of our life because we become our roles. And that's just not who we are. So who are we really? And how do we change this? Because this is happening to some extent in everybody's life. It happens to me all the time. So, well, we just came off of Easter weekend. So what's Easter represent? Well, and for Christians, it represents the coming of Christ, the walking out of the tomb, the rising from the dead, and that, that's absolutely true. You follow that religion, absolutely. There is a metaphor to that as well. It's also a metaphor for we get to rise to a new life. We get to resurrect from our humanity and our roles into our divinity, because I believe Christ walking out of the tomb was there to show us what's possible. And it's no mistake that Easter, the rising, the walking out of our tomb, is also in the season of spring. Do you think that has attention? Hey, Kylie, how's it going? Hey, Letitia. Try to be the conscious of how you play your role as a wife, right? That's right. Come back and stay connected. That's exactly correct. So look at this, John 14:12. Very truly, I tell you, this is Jesus, whoever believes in me will do the works that I have been doing, and they will do even greater than these, because I am going to the Father. It's my opinion. Jesus came to show us who we are, to show us that connection. And regardless of religion, see, we call him Jesus Christ. Christ was not his last name. Christ is a consciousness. Hey, he was in Israel. He was a Jew. His name could have been Jesus Goldberg or Abramowitz. I mean, James, his brother, isn't James Christ. Christ isn't his last name. Christ is a consciousness. It's an awareness. It's a state of being. It's being connected with our divinity, connected with God, realizing that we're all one, and then expressing that and being able to crucify our past. What's the crucifixion represent? It represents the dying of sin. It represents old things pass away, all things become new. That's the Christ consciousness. And when Jesus said, you can do all these things and greater, what did he do? He prayed. He laid hands on people. He healed people. So if he came to show us who we are, regardless of your religion, if you could have that consciousness, would that be great? If you could have a problem with a child and you could pray over him, you could lay hands over him, and his body can heal, his psychology could heal, he could actually be better and turn his life around. Would you like to have that power? If you knew someone that had disease and you know you could pray over him even remotely or lay hands on him and you know that disease could heal, would you do that? Because I know people that do that all the time. If you have a challenge in your marriage, would you like to say a word? Would you like to pray with your spouse? Would you like your marriage to be healed? Would you like to pray over your bank account? Would you like to pray over your job? If you feel like you're in a job but you're not meeting your sole purpose, would you like to say a prayer and see the outside world change? That is Christ consciousness, and that is who we are. Old things pass away. The crucifixion on Good Friday is not about crucifying ourselves. It's about a passing away. Notice my hands, about a passing away of our sin. Sin means missing the mark. Passing the way, letting that things pass away, walking out of the tomb and saying, I am renewed. So 2021 years ago, Jesus showed us what's possible. I believe that's why he came, to show us what's possible in our life, who we really are, to be able to walk, to be able to, in a sense, crucify, let those things pass away, and then walk out of the tomb, walk out of the darkness into light, walk out of our sin, our perceived sin, and be able to walk out into a renewed life and into a renewed mind. Romans 12:21. Do not conform to the patterns of the world. What's that mean? Do not conform to your role. Do not conform to what you think you're supposed to do and become what you're doing. Don't become your task list. That's what it means. Do not conform to the patterns of the world, but be transformed. Tuesday morning, transformation, right? Hey, I'm speaking to myself. I'm speaking to myself as much as I'm talking with you, but I'm really speaking to myself. So let's move together. Be transformed by the renewing of mind, so you may prove. What's that mean? Bring into fruition, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. So you may prove what is good and acceptable and the perfect will of God. Thy will be done. Proving the perfect will of God on earth right now in this life as it is in heaven. And that is our responsibility. The truth is we only have one role. We don't have all these other roles. We only have one role. Our spirit. We are spirit first. We are divine first. We are living humanity, and that is our role. And so the question is, are you conscious of that? Do you seek the Christ consciousness, the consciousness of your divinity, walking in humanity? So we do not operate according to our roles. The roles are what we are doing. Who we are is not our roles. That is very different. What we do is very different than who we are. And who are you? You are divine first. You are always connected. You are intended to be into an intimate connection with God. We're following the direction and awareness of our divinity and God moving through us. We're always present. God is always blessed. Why? God is always a blessing. Why? Because God's blessings are always available. They're always abundant, and they're never ceasing. There is always presence. There can never be absence when there is presence, and it's impossible to be anything else. The question is, are you conscious of that? Do we want to bring that consciousness into our life? So it is possible it is possible to remember who we are while we are doing our roles. And to me, that's what the spiritual holidays, whether it's Passover or Easter or Christmas or whatever holidays that you celebrate, it is a time to say, bring that into consciousness. Let's walk out of darkness into light. With the word, we can roll away that stone and we can walk out into a new world, enlightened. And it's not that the world is new, it's our perception is new, and then the world appears new. Because everybody has their own perception of the world. I believe that Jesus came here to show us our divinity, to show us how to live with that consciousness so we get beyond our humanity. We can let go of the past, all things become new, and as we were doing our roles, we are being our divinity, and that makes all the difference in the world. And let's do that together. Love you guys.